Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the AFROmind Podcast. This is episode 8, believe it or not. 2 more episodes, and we'll be done with season 1. Now, how quick we come back from season 1 depends on you all. Because if the views stay around where they are now, the motivation no good day. You understand? So I'm blackmailing you people right now. If you want us to come back with episode 2 after we finish episode 1 quickly, make sure you rank those views up because we have some really good stuff on there. All right. Hi, Alice. So today I want us to spend some time and talk about Black women's mental health.
Mhm.
We do, for those of you who don't know, we have a full episode out there on where Alice interviewed me about the mental health of Black men, African men. So today we're returning a favor to our lovely sisters. So we talk about mental health and how it affects Black women, how it affects African women, how it affects Ghanaian women. So let's go. All right. So first question for you, Alice. As a Ghanaian immigrant, what
Mhm.
got you into mental health to begin with and not nursing, not all the many things that typically Ghanaians get, nudged into when you come to the US?
Um, uh, there was like a short and a long version of it. So let's say the short version of it is I took a psychology class and I was
Mm,
fascinated um by psychology, fascinated by human behavior, just wanting to understand. In a way, it was like a selfish mission to understand my own experiences and to have the words for my own experiences. So did that. I took psychology 101, and then I was hooked, and that's how.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. See, that psychology 101 is powerful, eh? You take it in. I want to know more, But I guess another layer to the question is we live in a society where we've been socialized a certain way.
hmm,
So for many people, it's all about trying to do a job where there's some security, where there's some guarantee of amount of money, so you can take care of yourself and support your family. So even when you're interested in something and you've
yeah,
been told it's not a money maker, right?
yeah.
So for
Mhm.
you, what gave you the vim, the courage to pursue psychology, even though it probably didn't look as lucrative as something like medicine or nursing or
Yeah,
teaching? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it still doesn't, right? Even in our Ghanaian community, it's not a lot of um prestige or things like that. I mean, right? Humanities
Hmm.
versus the sciences. The sciences get all the
Hmm.
recognition, whether you want to be a lawyer, engineer versus the humanities. People look down on the humanities. So I think it's to be um expected. And I am like right from childhood, I am not somebody that um listens to what people say. I don't know if
Hmm.
that's
No,
good or bad.
it makes perfect sense.
I don't listen to what people say, even if it's my parents, even if it's my grandma. And, sometimes it has gotten me into trouble, and
Hmm.
sometimes it has worked well for me. So I wasn't really, in a way, I don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't care. It's for me, right? Like I said, I
Hmm.
was going into it for me. And if, of course, my parents would be worried, are you going to make money and all of that? But at the end of the day, I'm the one who is going to take care of myself. And so, yeah.
Hmm. Now, I reckon that it helps if your parents don't plan to depend on you. I don't know
No.
if
Yeah.
yeah, if that makes any sense, right? So
Yeah.
if you're growing up the whole time, the message you've heard is go to school so you can become somebody and come and take care of us. We are
Take care of
hustling
me.
for you, we're struggling for you. Then even if you like it and you don't want to listen, you
Yeah.
kind of you kind of have to think about them and decide that, you know what, I have to pursue something that has some
Hmm.
guaranteed,
Hmm.
income. So I guess if I understand correctly, even though it may have been in the background at the time, it helped knowing that it's going to be a you problem, even if it doesn't work out. It's not something that will affect your parents and your generation.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's my problem. And
Mm.
the advice or the suggestion for nursing was there because if you come from Ghana, that's the suggestion. Oh, you are smart if you want to go to school, either be a nurse, be a doctor. I heard that a lot. People tell me that a lot. Like, you're very smart, you're young, so this is the time to do that.
And do you feel like the route you chose to do, to go to the mental health
Hmm.
area, do you feel like it's been worth it for you? And it doesn't necessarily have to be about the money, you know. Overall,
Oh,
has it been worth it?
yeah. I mean, overall, it's been worth it. For me, right? For my own fulfillment,
Hmm.
my own purpose in life, it's been worth it for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, from where I sit, I think a lot of our attitudes towards mental health as a culture, whether it be Ghanaian, African, or even the overall, Black space, a lot
Hmm.
of it is influenced by our socialization and how we're raised, you know.
Yeah.
And I believe
Hmm.
it takes a special kind of rebel is not the word I'm looking for, but it's not even contrarian. It takes a special kind of person to venture into the area of mental health and thrive because
Hmm.
a lot of the ways that we think and process information and look at things doesn't fit how we're supposed to do things. Where
Yeah.
is I asked Dr. Tanisha this once on our lives, like, where is the courage? Where is I know you mentioned that you don't listen to people, but is there did it come from anywhere? Did you develop it at some point? Give us a bit of an insight into how Alice became Alice.
Such a long story. So I think part of it, right?
Mhm.
I'm fortunate that my undergrad psychology degree, I did gender studies, right?
Okay.
And so that really, like in addition to doing a bachelor's degree, I did gender and women's studies. So that that put things into perspective for me to, even though it was in America, just reading things written by Black feminist theories, Patricia Hill Collins, Bell Hooks, Audre Lorde, just reading things by them and being able to conceptualize things, I think for me helped me in a way to break away from some of these things.
Mhm.
And I think since if my grandmother was here and you were to ask her because she raised me, she would have always told you that um, I am kind of her stubborn granddaughter that
Mhm.
I don't I have always like I said, it has gotten me into trouble. I have been beaten so many times that if it would have changed, it would have changed. But I am always the person who is like, okay, this is not fair, and you cannot tell me this because I'm a girl. Like you
Mhm.
have to have some explanation for me.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, okay, you need to go be a lawyer or something because it seems like you want to advocate for yourself and advocate for everybody. And, and also sometimes they would just attribute it, oh, I was raised after my great grandmother and she was fierce in the way. And they'll be like, they'll just
Mhm.
attribute it to my dad. Like, you see what you did?
Mhm.
You just have like a mini Alice.
Mhm.
You
Like the part in the tone, no. The person you named,
Yeah,
you named,
yeah,
you
you
named her
made it like
after.
a mini, this
Mhm.
mini version. This is what you want, and and even still now, still is the jokes. They'll be like, "Oh, this is Auntie Alice on steroids," or
Mhm.
like Auntie
Mhm.
Alice who has been able to go to school because again during my great grandmother's time that wasn't a thing, but they're like, this is Auntie Alice on a different kind of vibe that we have here.
Mhm.
But I think all of those things combined and just the experience being around, seeing how girls are treated, even in school, how girls are treated. I was really good in math, and the way that I was treated at school, it really left a bad taste in my mind when they would tell the boys, "Oh, why would you sit there for a girl to
Get higher grades than you.
Yeah,
Mm.
and it's like
Like they will use you to shame the boys. Like boys, now
exactly.
what are you people doing? Like what's my girl? Chana mutiti.
Yeah, and it
Mm.
was really uncomfortable for me. It wasn't like something that it was really an uncomfortable situation for me that like, oh, even my success isn't like it's not, it has to come at a cost, or there is some asterisk that has to be around
Mm.
my process, and
Mm.
it was really annoying. So again, so if having that experiences, and then some family dynamics experiences, having all those experiences, and then taking women's studies classes, really delving into it, and it's like, oh, then everything just kind of connect the dots. Okay, this is what socialization does. This is what this does. This is what this does. And so when you're able to connect the dots for yourself, then
Mm.
everything doesn't matter, right? It just doesn't matter in a
Mm.
way. Uh, this is the machine, or this is the institution at work, and
Yeah.
it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Okay. Mm. Yeah. So for you, that's maybe a teacher seeing your grandparents and say, or your family members are saying, "See, Alice is doing so well. She's beating all the boys in the class." That wasn't a
Mhm.
compliment to you, was it?
No, no, it was so uncomfortable. It didn't make any sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like to aid myself, I went to school at a time where we would do morning mental. Um, you'll be
Yeah.
beaten, and my goal wasn't to pass the ball. I just didn't want anybody to beat me. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's painful. So if you beat me, you're gonna mess up my whole day, and I didn't want that. And so I'm
Right.
like, no,
You study hard. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like, I don't want this to happen to me. So I'm going to try my best, and mental also, you have to be quick on your feet, and to be quick on my feet so that I'll be out of this situation. But just the whole, it
Mm.
wasn't even celebrated, or there was a whole commotion around it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now, so it sounds like from a very early age, you were thrown in situations that, for lack of a better word, were very uncomfortable.
Hmm.
But you thrived. You kept it going, right? And I can picture. I remember growing up, there were situations where girls who were excelling like you would get comments to suggest that boys won't like you if you keep showing them up like that,
Oh yeah.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
How did that have any effect on you? Because as early as class six, class, JSS1, JSS2, people are telling you if you keep excelling like this, boys won't like you, or how? Yeah, talk to me a bit about that.
Yeah, you get it, right? And my grandmother, God bless her soul, like she was doing what she with what she
Mhm.
had, and she would tell me like, hey, a woman who asks so many questions, men will not really like you because you ask questions, because you talk, and and so it's like, okay, that it's, I mean, as a child, I don't think it's, you can conceptualize, okay, then do I have to choose? But I can imagine how some children, it will be for them like, okay, this is not a good thing. So let me just tone it down a little.
Yeah. Mm.
Uh, but for me, I don't know. I don't think it was intentional, but there was
Right.
something about it that was like, um, and also, I want to be nice to the boys in my class, but they were not all like something that to die
Mm.
for. I mean,
Justice,
and all, but they
justice for
were
those
not.
young boys.
They were not. It wasn't
Mhm.
ever a thing like, oh, I have to really like. If you like me, you like me.
If you don't, you don't.
You don't. Like you have a crush on a few couple of people, but I was also always that person that was like, you are not going to mess with my education. I don't care about you that much. I mean,
Yeah.
in my little brain, I like you. You're cute, but you are
Yeah.
not all that.
I'm not going to tank my education for your sake. I'm not going to fail a class just so you feel good about yourself.
No, no.
Mhm.
No. And it even went on into secondary school. I went to a boarding house. I went to co-ed and
Mm,
again went through that education without even dating anybody on campus. And sometimes the way I behave, some people would think, oh, she's very promiscuous. I see sometimes on TikTok where people would make those
mm,
comments or whatever. But to me, like boys were not really
mhm.
they were not really fascinating to me in
Yeah.
a way. So, so even when I went to secondary school where I had the time, like no parents, no grandparents around where I could have, dated as many
Mm,
of them, it was still not
yeah.
like,
Mm,
it's not that.
mhm. Yeah. And for me, it's quite sad that some of the messages from 20 plus years ago,
Hmm.
as in like, oh, if you do this, boys won't like you. Like 20 years later, it's still so strong in our
Still there.
community. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
woman, as a woman, if you go to school this much, you will
Mhm.
scare away the boys, and
Yeah.
it's
If you
like,
have tattoos, if you have piercing, if you talk,
mhm,
if you know,
yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, it's sad. And I guess it's a nice segue to the broader conversation about mental health, right? So
Mhm.
when you grow up consistently hearing messages about shrinking yourself for other people to shine,
Mhm.
that that has got to influence your self-esteem. Whatever, if for this one you can
Yeah.
maybe open it up to the average Ghanaian woman or the average African woman, average Black woman. That has
Yeah.
got to touch on your self-esteem, your overall mental health, how much effort you put into taking care of yourself versus taking care of others.
Mhm.
So open that up a bit for us, experiencing some
Yeah.
of those things. Yeah.
You internalize it, right? We all internalize things that's in our environment. That's what we absorb for better or for worse. So for a child, how are you supposed to wrap your mind around what is going on when you don't get any explanation, but this is what you're told? So you find ways to, in a way, survive in your environment, right? And
Right.
then
Mhm.
couple that with the message that, oh, your honor is marriage, right? And you are being raised for marriage because that's like the ultimate goal. So if marriage is the ultimate goal, and then if you talk men don't like you, then you have to choose or make a choice or make a choice, and sometimes you unconsciously make that choice of, okay, I'm going to, it's not like you tell yourself I'm going to dim my light, but that's
Mhm.
what you do, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
You use, if you do very well, maybe you tone it down a little bit, because again, the attention that even you get, it's not, the attention is not on you, but it's not like, oh, you did so well, great, you're doing an amazing job, but it seemed like, okay, this is not to be expected, so why?
Right. Right.
Why
Mhm.
are you doing it? And so you receive all these messages and you have to make sense of it. And so for, let's say, a 6-year old, 7-year old, and 8-year old, how do you make sense of it? And in a way, you forget about you. You forget about who you are as a whole, and then try to fit into the mold of, okay, this is what a perfect woman should be. This is what the woman who men like or women go after, this is who she is, or this is the picture, so I'm going to be that picture or be that person that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would be
Because
able to survive and
mhm.
to be able to live in this world.
Yeah, because I reckon there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much motivation a person has. And
Hmm.
if every day of your life it's as though you have to do the things that would prepare you to be a great wife or do the things that prepare you to be a great student, human, career person, and consistently you're being told to pick one, after unconsciously you're going to be drawn towards one because that's where you're going to put your
Hmm.
effort,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know. So, and yeah, like if you spend more time learning how to make different meals,
Yeah,
whereas you
yeah.
could have been going for extra classes, you
Because
know.
you also not be chastised or ashamed.
Yeah.
Um,
If your grade isn't an A
yeah.
plus and it's a B
Mhm.
for a girl, Yeah, you're doing
That's
well.
okay.
You're doing
Somebody
well
will
for a
come
girl.
and marry you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's one of the reasons why, especially on TikTok, sometimes when I hear people speak, I have so much empathy because they were raised that way. I mean, we were all raised that way. I mean, if we're narrowing it down to women, Alice, you and many of these people were raised that way, or you heard those messages, but you did not conform, right? So
Yeah.
do you then have, like,
Yeah.
you could have also decided to not conform, and so no empathy for you? Like, talk to me. I don't know if that makes any sense. Yeah.
So I don't often I tell people like I don't want I don't want people to hear what I say and then use it to judge themselves or to be the benchmark where
Mm.
you're like, oh, Alice is like this, why am I not like this? And all of that. That's not the thing. And I am also not so special, right?
Yeah.
Um that there has been an evolution. And also when you think of, I'm almost 40, so I'm also getting to the point where I also don't care about a lot of things in life. I think as you get there, your level of not caring really goes down and
The
down and
older you
down
get. Mhm.
the older you get, because you in a way you figure it out like, this doesn't make sense. So like if people hear what I'm saying, I want them to put things into perspective, right? And the other thing is I also want people to know that this, maybe seeing me, I am not like the example that everybody should follow, right?
Mhm.
It also hasn't come at a cost, right? It has come at a
At the
cost.
cost, yeah. Mhm.
It has brought a lot of pain, a lot of things as well attached to it. So it's not like it's a choice that I made. It's not also like an intentional choice where maybe at the age of 6 or 7, I was sitting down planning, like, okay, this is what it's going to do, or all of that.
Mhm.
So it's not. It's a combination of things that has brought me to this place, and also it's education, definitely. It's important for me. I would say education has played a big role, and the humanities that people frown upon. It is the humanities that, in a way, is going to save us as a society, because it's where I learned most of these things and how to
Mhm.
navigate the world. And also, like an important thing is, I have a great father, right? Our relationship could be better, but what
Yeah.
you everything could be better. But I have a great father. And I think that has helped me in so many ways, to be confident in my decision, to stand in my decision. Even if he doesn't agree with the decisions that I make, I he's always going to support me. And also I
Mhm.
also have a great mom as well. So I in a way, it's a combination of a lot of things that has really helped me. That I think if I didn't have the support of my family, it would be difficult to navigate the world as
Yeah.
me. I am the oldest of five. I have three brothers and a sister. And there has never been a day where any of my brothers will wake up and be like, we are not gonna listen to you because you're a girl. Like, it has never happened.
Yeah.
And I like being the leader of that team, because that's
Unpack,
where I
yeah.
have most of my powers.
Mhm. Yeah. Uh,
Where I feel my powers, where I will call like, hey, your big sister is here. This is
uh,
how you gonna do it, okay? You
yeah.
do what I tell you.
No,
Because I'm older than you and I know what I'm talking about.
I appreciate the props to your parents, because it speaks to how they raised the five of you, right? It speaks
Hmm.
to how they raised all of you. Because there are so many homes where if there is a boy in the house,
Hmm.
especially when you get to a certain age where height wise it's not so obvious to tell who's the adult, when somebody comes in and is looking for somebody, they talk to the boy. It's like, so the fact that your parents raised you to the point where your three brothers know that, no, that's the leader of our pack, and
Hmm.
the respect, it speaks to the great job
Hmm.
that they did.
Yeah.
Props to Papa Alice, Mama Alice. Props to you all.
And so it's never an issue in my home, right? It's
Mhm.
it's probably the issue outside, or I would say it's just TikTok and outside in the world where maybe people hear about my life where they're like, oh, but in my home, things we I have
Okay.
my family, my friends, the people around me. Yeah. And again, talking up to about my parents, also like my step parents. So I think my parents have been able to, create a great family for. I mean, it's not like a perfect family, but even
Right.
though it's a blended family, they've been able to cultivate an amazing family for their children. Like I told you, I'm the oldest of five. It's my dad, the one that I have the same father and mother with, is one. But
Okay.
if you ask my dad how many kids he has, he will tell you he has five
Yeah.
kids. Right.
Yeah.
He will tell you he has
On
five.
church. Yeah.
Yeah, he would tell you he has five kids. All my siblings talk to my dad and all of that. So yeah, I think it's it's also having that foundation that
Mhm.
that helps to make things easy to balance. But like to say what I'm saying, that it's not, it has not, or and it's not been easy to be a Ghanaian woman, almost 40, educated, no children, no husband. It's not. It's not been easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now, earlier you mentioned, I mean, it's not easy. You mentioned it has come at a cost. If you don't mind sharing, just throw
Mhm.
some words out there. When you say it has come at a cost, what are you talking
Mhm.
about?
So I how do I even put it? I used to I'm still a Christian.
Maybe you were a stronger Christian when you were growing up.
I'm still a Christian.
Mhm.
So, so I used to so let me say this, then I'll go back. I don't now, even if you give me $1 million, I'm never going to a Ghanaian church. Well, never, let me say never, but I'm never going to a Ghanaian church at this point in my life. Maybe tomorrow when I wake up it would change. But so some of the cost that I would say, or the pain, has been when I used to attend Ghanaian church, I was always the prayer point.
Yeah. Today, let's pray for all the people who don't have husbands, so that
Yeah.
we're giving tongues on your head.
Exactly, right? And the anointing oil, they'll push you, they will do this, come to 7 a.m. church, come to 8 a.m. church, come to and so that's some of it, right? That if um if like during Sunday school they are teaching the kids, and if I say something, it would always be that it would always be that, oh, you have worldly knowledge, or you people go to school and you feel like you have all the
Yep.
knowledge, but
Hmm.
look at you now. And it's like, oh, so that, right,
Yeah.
that constant reminder that you are a problem that need to be
So
solved, or that need to be fixed, or
yeah.
there's something seriously wrong with you, or God has forgotten you. in a way,
Yeah.
when it's like, I mean, I'm okay. Like, I went to school, I've been able to work on projects in school, been able to travel, do work
Mhm.
internationally. Like, I think I have lived a good life. But again, but then it's like, oh, God should remember you and honor you, and, have favor on you. So
Mhm.
that's some of what um
Yeah.
I
Okay.
would say. Again, there are little examples when you come to TikTok, you talk about children and family, and people would ask you, do you have kids? Do you have
No,
a family? And it's like,
it shouldn't have to do with anything, right? Because yeah, but it's like your knowledge and your training is being looked at through a filter. It's like, yeah, no, if you don't have kids or a family for yourself, minty, like almost like you don't know any children.
yeah,
Like you have nieces and nephews, you have the training, you've worked with several children and stuff like that, and that doesn't count for anything because you don't have any biological kids.
yeah. You don't have sympathy, you don't
Mhm.
have empathy, you're not nurturing, you're selfish, um, you're wicked,
Yeah.
um, your heart's broken, you're bitter. They have a list that
Yeah. Right. So somebody's asking a question here on TikTok that
yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I can see already is it sounds like you took a step back from the Ghanaian church, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
in addition to, I guess, boundaries, how do you deal with some of these things so it doesn't break you down? Because it can definitely break a person when
Yeah.
your environment is consistently seeing you as like deficient, like there's something that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, yeah. So like I said, I don't go to Ghanaian church. I don't even in Columbus, I don't socialize among a lot of Ghanaian or African communities. And also sometimes there could be some remarks so you feel you're better, but it's not that. It's just I just want to avoid the conversation around, oh,
Mhm.
let me try and find somebody for you. And all the time they will go and pick up these people.
Every day somebody meets you, they want to hook you or they want to pair you with somebody.
Exactly. And they wouldn't even ask me. They would just you they wouldn't even ask me what do you like? And it's just the web pick somebody and it's like this person, what am I supposed to do with them?
Mhm.
What am I supposed to do with them? And so I try to, have that boundary, but also I have been like one of the things that helped me is that I've been also able to I have an amazing group of people around.
Okay.
So that's really great. Um Married with children, no children and all of that. And like none of my friends, if let's say I'm talking about their kid or me and their child, they would never ask me, well, you don't have a child, so you can't say that. They'll be like, or sometimes they'll be like, go call Auntie Alice and talk talk your nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
But I'll be the one on the phone with them 4 hours. And, sometimes yesterday one of my friends' mom just came and took the phone from her son. It's like, Alice, kwada why kwada. Now who did you know? I don't want some
Okay.
more
Mhm.
of this. But again, I have been I've been able to cultivate a great
Support system.
support system around me. Like I said, my family, my brothers, my sister, everybody has been really supportive, right? And of course, my parents, they are still Ghanaian. So every
Now and then.
once in a while they would ask, hey, is there somebody you are talking to? And I'm like, I am the most open person you people know. If the moment I like somebody, I would just parade them around the world. That's why I don't even date because sometimes when I date, I'm so stupid. Like I'll just parade them around the world, just
Or don't
follow them wherever we go, and I'll bring them to my like. I'm like you people know. I could be talking to somebody for 1 week, and then I'll let them call you and talk to you, and they'll be like, "Yeah, we know." And I'm like, So if I'm talking to somebody, you would
you
know.
know.
I don't
Mhm.
have sense like that. So, but sometimes they will ask, but it's I have
It's from a
for
current
me,
place.
yes, for me it's from a caring place. So being able and also going to therapy, I think that has also really been helpful. Therapy, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think ultimately one big bit, I mean, going back to the question about how you do these things, I think one big thing has to be not caring what people will say. Because they'll baby on back. Like, because
Hmm.
you're mentioning therapy as one of the ways that you are dealing with life. But the fact
Hmm.
that you're in therapy, somebody will sit somewhere and say, oh,
Yeah,
that,
of
or
course.
yeah, also a therapist, but will not cry or what therapy. It's like, how is that? It's
Of
like you're
course.
insulting
Of
me.
course. Of
how do
course.
you feel like, what makes you think that is an insult? Like that the therapist is also in therapy. It's like,
Therapy.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm preaching the thing that is good. So if I'm also doing it, that should actually tell you how much I believe in what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
but so ultimately, I think one, in addition, because when you think about the boundaries that you set, deciding that I'm not going to go into this church, I'm not going to go into these spaces because of the things that people say and stuff like that, it requires a little bit of courage to decide that, you know what, my brain sebi like concept questions now for Bisamino. It
Mm-hmm.
takes courage. It takes courage to build that circle of friends, because in building that circle of friends, you will kick some people out. I'm sure
Oh
that
yeah.
there are people who have been in your lives that said certain things that you're like, yeah, no, you can't do this. They kept doing it. And you're like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a step back from you, right? That takes courage. That takes
Mm-hmm.
willing to be the villain in
Mm-hmm.
somebody's story.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in addition to all of the steps that you've mentioned, that courage,
Yeah.
I guess we need to build that courage to be the villain in somebody's story, because yes, you can't really live yours, you know.
Cannot, right?
Yeah.
And I think the courage, all of that, also it all goes back to therapy and education.
Yeah.
Maybe I took my education differently, but again, like I said, if you take a course in psychology, gender studies, Black feminist theory, all of these things that you get the courage to live your life, right? And having that courage doesn't mean it's easy. So I
Right, right.
don't want anybody to listen and be like, "Oh, it's a walk in the park." No, it's not going to be easy, because it's also not going to stop people from talking, right? It's if I am not in the Ghanaian community as much, but my parents are, right? And so they get the questions. They get the questions. They get, oh, me who abranteɛ bi mepɛ sɛ ɔne wo ba ne kasa. So
Yeah.
they get all of that, right? And so they would deal with that. And sometimes maybe when I'm talking to them, it would slip and they would say something. And I'm like, oh, why didn't I said, oh, they said minimum, say maybe can't cry one
Yeah.
why not, right? But they get it. They get it. And so they would have to learn to deal with it. But you have the courage, you are going to therapy. Other people in your life are not going to
Yeah.
therapy. So it's like it's constant, but again, sometimes it's we you assume at
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
Now, so Alice, you do a lot of work with high achieving Black women.
Mhm.
Um, what are some of the main concerns that people typically come to therapy with? People come
Mhm.
to your office. What are some of the main mental health issues or just life issues that people often
Mhm.
come to your office with?
Yeah. So I would say definitely. I mean, anxiety and depression, like two things that a lot of people go to therapy, but it manifests in so many ways. So perfectionism, that's that's a big thing that I see. And not like I think sometimes when we think about perfectionism, we think about it in terms of maybe work and if somebody has been able to achieve a lot of things, but perfectionism can show up in so many
Different
different
ways.
ways where sometimes people they just want to make sure that um I have done all that I could, right?
Mhm.
And so sometimes even people may bring it into therapy where they expect therapy to be this perfect thing that, or therapy is this thing that I have to pursue, right? So they will come with their journal, with their notes, like,
Like
okay,
they have to
Alice,
do it well. Like I have to
yeah,
make sure, me yin ye.
yeah. Alice, what's the plan?
Mm.
Maybe in 6 months I'm going here, so we have to get here. And I'm like, yo, you're raising my anxiety, right?
Mhm.
You're raising my anxiety. But again, it's women who have worked hard, and so like for them, that perfectionism or that ability to plan ahead may have served them, and they are bringing it into therapy. Um, then also relationship difficulties. Like we see the talk about relationships online. We see how rate of singleness is high, especially among Black women, Black
Mm.
educated
Yeah.
women, right? Um, as a woman, the more educated you are, the more money you make, the more like all these things that you would think, oh, this is so great, but it makes you undesirable, in a way. So that sometimes coming with that, coming with inability to rest, um, inability to just be and not do anything. The other day, I think I hosted a live where just making fun of how some of us we grew up with parents who wake up at 4 a.m. every day. 4 a.m.
Uncle baby, I cry. No, sorry.
Like, where are you going? Like, even the witches are asleep. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, where are you going? So it becomes a learned behavior, right? Where it's like,
Because a
okay,
good woman doesn't sleep till 8 a.m. No, as a good woman, you have to wake up at a certain time. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So you
Mm-hmm.
you buy into it, always proving yourself, always proving that you're good, all of these things. So that inability to rest and sometimes PTSD, right? If you are raised in a society that has these very strict um gender roles or gender expectations, it means anything outside of it, it's not accepted, and that could be a traumatic
Experience.
experience for you. The responses that you get where you are dealing with a lot of shame. We How shame is used as a control tool, always. Hwɛ wo nyɔnkofoɔ a wo ne ɔmo sii so ɔmo nyinaa na ɔmo aware awoe, wo na wote hɔ, anaasɛ nkɔ besie yɛde wo kɔ a na yɛasan aba da bi a yɛde wo bɛba.
There's a whole song about that. Nkobisi okoya wasayaba. Yeah.
Yɛde wo kɔ asan aba saa, right? Especially this graduation season. Obi ba na awie high school, wo deɛ ɔwɛn. Also kofa obaba na your show. All these things. So how?
So then it means you have to change who you are, because bringing it back to it being the same,
Mhm,
bringing it back to shame being a tool of
mhm,
control. As they
mhm,
keep shaming you,
mhm.
then you have to change who you are if you don't want to keep
Yes.
receiving the shaming,
Mhm,
right? Yeah.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah. So you have to change, or you have to just take what's available to you, right? Even if it means you are unhappy. And then, that same shame tool also keeps married women in marriages. So you see
You want to see
how
working.
they are treating single mothers, single women. You don't want that, right? You don't want to be part of that group. So then that also means that I'm just going to sit in my marriage and
Like
be happy.
that.
Yeah.
And you're crying to set single person, like,
Exactly. And your crowd, so also sometimes dealing with people with that, helping them to make those decisions. And so yeah, and so that's what I would say some of the common issues, and sometimes these things that we are talking about, it can manifest as depression, as anxiety,
disparity.
as other mood disorders or
Yeah.
disturbances. So working with them around that, and the hope or the expectation is that you get to create a life that's for you, not the one that society prescribed for you.
Waste.
So that can be difficult. So that means that also, in a way, we have to dismantle all the stigma, the schemas that you have built. You have to
Mhm.
dismantle everything and rebuild something different for you. And sometimes that's difficult. And so that's why sometimes people don't want to change because
Yeah. Change is difficult.
yeah.
Change is difficult. In fact, sometimes being a good, healthy person is actually more difficult than just conforming and being like everybody else. You
Hmm.
know, 'Cause every now and then I look at, like, when I'm doing things for the kids, and they're doing certain things, and I'm like, sometimes I envy. Sometimes I envy the parents that left. It's like, oh no, or call ya one baby, They don't have to deal with any of this, right? So it's almost easier to not be here, right? Because to be a parent in your child's life is to consistently grow, is to consistently be challenged, is to be doing better. If you care about what you're doing, you have to be better.
Yeah.
It's easy if
Yeah.
you don't care. If you're living with a partner and you don't care, TV. If they complain, it's so far, so I'm the man of this house. It's easy, right? If you want to be a partner that you work as a family and all of that, it takes intentionality and breaking societal expectations and stuff like that. And that one is sometimes it's too difficult. Anyway,
Yeah.
my little rant over. So
Yeah.
the question I have for you is, as a society, we have normalized a lot of our difficulties, right?
Yeah.
Obi, there are so many women who are dealing with anxiety and depression, but it's like, oh, me, I say, me, that means me now. Like, I think so much, because I have to think about my kids, I have to think about my family, my husband, Opia, or my fear that, like there's so many things that we're struggling with, but we think it's just what a life should be for a woman. You understand? At what point does somebody know that, okay, now this is too much, I need to talk to a therapist, or this is too much, I need to try to live? Like, this isn't normal. This isn't what life should look like.
Okay. So that's right now, there are people fighting with me on my page. I posted,
What was it about the Tyler Perry thing?
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And so to see that even some people are triggered by what I said, that Black women are no longer suffering, and to see how even some Black women and African women, because I was told to focus on what's happening in
In
Africa,
Africa.
are like, oh, we are suffering. If you are not suffering, say you are not suffering, but we are very suffering, right? To see the response and to also see that it's it's sometimes, from what I see, right, as a
Mm.
trauma therapist, if if the trauma has been long history of that trauma, sometimes it becomes your identity,
Yep.
right? And so your whole identity is wrapped up in that trauma. So if I am not the long suffering wife or the long suffering woman, then who I am, right? And then there's this idea that there is something at the end of suffering waiting for me. Right. So there is a reason for my suffering, and good things come to those
Just
who
wait.
patiently suffer and they wait. Um, if it's a marriage, once I raise that man, make sure he's good. One day, he's going to turn around and see that I'm a good woman, that I have stood by him all of this time. And so, when you think about all of this, it's difficult, right? And so it is up to that person to say, I want to change, right? And sometimes when people come to therapy, it's not like they have all the answers where they are like, oh, I'm coming to change, right? Sometimes it could be like, um, I'm anxious a lot, or I'm restless. I don't know what's going on. I talked to my PCP. They said I should go to therapy, so that's why
I'm here. Mm.
I'm here. Or I'm irritated a lot. Or one that often comes up is, I went to school, I have the degrees, I have the job, I have the husband, I have the children. Where is the happiness? I'm not happy, or I'm not fulfilled, or I feel like there's something still missing. And so sometimes that's how it shows up, and we will start from there. Or I have the money, I'm doing all the right things, and but I'm still not happy, as well. So sometimes that's what shows up for people. But it's an individual thing that you have to decide when it's
When you've had enough.
When you have enough, right? And again, like I said, I'm not saying that it's going to be easy at the other end, right? Where it's all roses and walk in the park. It's not,
Mhm.
right? Because therapy is hard. Um, Therapy is hard if you want to dismantle your whole identity. It's hard. If you want to rebuild your life, it's hard. If you want to be the first in your family to go to therapy, that's hard, right?
Mhm.
That means that sometimes you are going to speak a language that people don't even understand
Understand.
in your family, or they don't know what it is. People are going to laugh at you.
And you're going to lose people. Like when you are healing, the version you become isn't compatible with the people that you were close with. Because
Exactly.
sometimes you're almost an entirely different person now. You have boundaries. How dare you?
Hmm.
You know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes when I do, that's also sometimes what happens in some of couples therapy, where after some time they're like, oh, we shouldn't be married. Or
Hmm.
I don't even know why we are here. Um, and that can be difficult as well. And then sometimes, I've had situations where I've worked with people for years and years where day one I knew that this person was in an abusive relationship. However, I cannot tell you that you are in an abusive relationship or it's not good for you. And that's also what makes being a therapist difficult. I have to watch you
Come to the
fall,
realization.
yeah, fall 1,000 times, hoping that I'm always going to be here. I'm going to be that safe space. I'm not going to judge you, whatever decision, hoping that one day, you would
Mhm.
make that realization that, oh, Alice, this is an abusive relationship. And sometimes I want to be like, yeah, I've known. For a
Mhm.
while, I would have told you at day one, but
Mhm.
I would have been your enemy. We wouldn't have been here. But then I'm like, yeah, this is it. How did you come? And then they would then make that, okay, this means this is not what I want. So again, therapy, as much as we want people to go to therapy, it's also very messy.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's gonna open things that maybe you don't want to
Opened.
open. So I can understand when people are
Don't,
okay
but
with
don't. Yeah. Because
what they
even
do.
sometimes the little work that we do, I reckon that it's shaking some relationships and some marriages,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Because when you describe what a healthy relationship should look like, then the person looks inside and go like, "Oh snap, this isn't it." Right? I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that a relationship could look this way, where I will be treated as a human, and now it's like, what do I do with that information? I made a post, I made a video about narcissistic personality disorder, and I've received a lot of inbox from people saying, "How do you live with such a person?" I'm like, if you honestly feel like that person meets the criteria we just talked about,
How do you live with them?
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you because, yeah, I think Dr. Tanisha put it best. Like, the person who has the personality disorder doesn't have an issue. It's
No,
the
you
people
have it.
around them who struggle. So if you're living with somebody who has all of these behaviors, I don't know that you can live with them. It would have to come with boundaries. You'd have to change. There are a lot of things that are going to have to change about you.
Mm-hmm.
That is assuming that you're going to stick around with this person, right? So yeah, bringing it back to the fact that therapy and awareness and stuff like that can be messy, because sometimes that means that you realize that this is a relationship I want to get out of. That means that you realize that I have to go no contact with a parent, because that relationship is too toxic and hurtful. Sometimes you realize that I've been told my whole life that I need to forgive and forget, but no, I actually need to cut this person off, and even if I forgive, love them from afar. We know there are some people who don't believe you can really forgive if you are going to cut the person off, but that's
Yeah.
a conversation for another day, right? So we all recognize therapy can help, but
Mhm.
also, and I appreciate you saying this, that it can be messy, it can be hard, it can be very challenging. Is there any balance? Like, what do you, what are some final thoughts for people in our societies who are going through some of these things that we've normalized? You know, anything to say to them, because we want better lives for them. Like, we want a life, especially for the Black women, we want a life where they are not consistently having to take care of everybody else but themselves,
Yeah.
right? We want a life
Mhm.
for them where they are not suffering for everybody else because they've been told that as a woman that's your role to take care of everybody
Yeah.
else. Like, is there a balance in there somewhere?
A balance in between therapy and not therapy.
A balance in a balance in between healing, but not break it, because really, I mean, there are so many people that if they actually went to therapy and did the full work of healing, they would turn their whole lives would
Mhm.
scatter,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So that's what I mean by, is there a
Yeah.
middle, is there a middle ground, right? Because them staying in it is probably not a good idea, but also they're probably not ready to also scatter their whole lives, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can, yeah. So, and what I'm saying is just like the talking version of it. So it's not like you go to therapy, everything scatters, and your therapist is like, "Good job."
Right, right. Mm,
That even if you are in an abusive relationship and you want to leave, no therapist would tell you to go and end an abusive relationship abruptly. There's a lot of planning and strategic planning that's going to be involved. So, and you know, I think in our community, because a lot of people don't go to therapy, we don't know what it is, right? So
mm.
your therapist is like your personal mechanic in a way, right? It's your personal mechanic, your cheerleader, your supporter, your motivator, somebody, your challenger. Like they are all of these different things. So they are not somebody who is going to say, I'm going to leave you out there in the wild. Of course, you can break up with a therapist if you want, but and also they are not there to be like, this is my gotcha moment,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Like, oh, day one, then they scatter everything, and then they're like, yes, you see, I broke you. That's not
Right.
what therapy is. So it's very, very delicate that to even come to that point of, let's say you want to make a 360 or 180, there's going to be a lot of work
You give you,
involved.
you would have the skill sets.
You have the skills, you will plan it out. You your therapist will make sure that you are taken care of. If you have anxiety, they would make sure that your anxiety is taken care of. If you have had trauma in the past, all of these things, that they will make sure that it is all taken care of, so that when you make it, you also don't want to make a decision out of trauma, or sometimes out of trauma we can also make some extreme boundaries where it's like, you're not making sense, right? This is so unrealistic,
Right.
right?
Mm.
Where, because out of trauma you go and cut everybody off, and it's like, okay, like,
And
that's not
now you're even more depressed because you're lonely. You're alone. You're by yourself. You don't have a support
exactly.
system. Yeah.
Yeah, that you so there is a method to it,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
things are gradual, 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 and no therapist will also go and tell you to go not go no contact with this person and all of that. It's all going to depend on you, and they will support you. So there is a balance, or
Okay. So
there
inherent in therapy is the balance.
is a
Right.
balance,
Yeah.
right? And there is a method
Right.
to it. Now, is it going to be fun? It's not going to be fun all the time. Let me add,
Yeah.
all the time. Because of course, sometimes it's fun in therapy. You are laughing, you are kicking, you are happy, you did something that you are proud of, you are happy about it. And there are also some days that you are sobbing and crying in therapy. And it's like, this sucks, right? And I've had,
Mm.
I've had days where my clients have told, you know what? I wasn't gonna come back. And I'm like, okay, but why are you back then? And my clients, I could do them like that because
You
we
have
have
that relationship.
yeah, I'm like, "So why are you back then? You know, you could have
Mm.
ghosted me." And I'm like, you know what? I was thinking, I'm like, I'm already
Mm,
here. So let me
mhm,
finish. I'm like, okay.
mm. Right.
So, and I have had my own therapist where after a session, I will feel so sad and I'm like, I don't like this guy. I'm not, he's not
Mm.
probably not going to see me. And next week I
Next
will be
week you'll be
right
there.
there.
Yeah. Okay.
Sitting there.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
that's what it is like,
Okay.
right?
Mm.
And that's um and I think it's also very important to at least interrogate your life, right? Don't just be, this was how I was raised, right? At least be an active participant in your life and interrogate yourself, your life. Why do I do what I do? Why do I act this way? Why did I make this choice? Or even why do I want to make this choice? Those things are important. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So to try to summarize this,
Hmm.
yes, the healing is very possible. That even the 360 is very possible, but it's not going to scatter. Like when you have the right therapist, you
Hmm.
get there gradually. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's not going to be seamless, but because it's a gradual work, you can sometimes even bring the people you love with you, right? Because
Yeah.
if when you're learning how to do boundaries, for example, it won't be to go and cut the people off. It will be to teach the people how to treat
Yeah.
you. And if they work with you, then they stay in your life, right? And
And there
then
have been
almost like
situations that people have brought family members
with them, right? And then
with
so
them.
then the whole
And
unit can even heal, right?
yeah.
From
And
just
they'll be like,
your
oh,
step.
yeah, Alice, you explained this to me. Can you? Oh, they'll be
Mm,
like, I want to facilitate a conversation with my parent. This is
mm,
what I want to talk about.
yeah,
So this is what. So there have been situations that even people are bringing people from their life into therapy. So like you said, yeah, you can bring people along with you as you go. People who are willing and want
balance.
to.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, the question we will close with is, and the myth is not what I'm looking for, but closure. So many people are stuck in relationships and tough situations because they want closure from people who hurt them and they're not getting it. That would be the last question. But before that, there's a question here about if you can heal from trauma, etc., without going to therapy, right? And also being from Ghana, I know that there are some people who don't have the resources for it, who don't have access to it. So healing without necessarily when you don't have access to therapy or when you, I guess, don't want to, I don't know, healing from generational trauma, from direct trauma on your own, etc. Is that possible without therapy, and what would that look like?
So what I'm gonna say, it's not possible, and maybe somewhere in the world it's possible. So if anybody find the literature on that, you let me know. Right. I am a trauma therapist. I am trained in trauma and trauma interventions and all of that. And I cannot be my own therapist, even with all the knowledge that I have.
Right. Mm.
I cannot, right? So I am imagining for somebody who has no knowledge of trauma,
No training.
no idea, no idea of the interventions, no idea of what even trauma informed care is, no idea how to ask the questions to get the answers, no idea how to peel back the onions. And now they are going to do it on themselves.
True.
So it's, I'm trying to wrap my mind around how that is
Yeah.
possible, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because even therapists who are not therapists in general, who may not be trained in trauma, sometimes they find it difficult to even do trauma work where
Yeah.
if you come in with anxiety and they treat the anxiety and they realize, oh, maybe this
There's
is some
trauma.
serious trauma work, that they will be like, okay, I'm
They'll
going to
refer
refer.
you out. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
like me. I don't know. I don't do trauma work.
Yeah.
When we get
Yeah.
there, I'm referring you out. Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be difficult for you
Yeah.
to say, I'm going, what does that look like?
Okay.
Like, do you even have the framework to put everything in and say, I'm going to heal,
Mm,
right?
right. So I think what I can say to that is you can improve
Yeah.
without therapy, of course,
Hmm.
right? But
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
the level of like where you need to get to say, like I have that trauma
Hmm.
is significantly behind me. I'm in a
Hmm.
significantly better place. That bit you'd need therapy, right? So
Yeah.
yes, you can significantly improve
Yeah.
with respect to how much that trauma or whatever it is affects you
Hmm.
without going to therapy. But even that requires a lot of awareness, a lot of
Exactly.
reflection, continuous
Hmm.
reflection, a lot
Hmm.
of boundary setting. And with those,
Hmm.
even if you don't have a therapist, you're still going to need you seek the knowledge, right? So it can be
Hmm.
watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, listening to shows, things like this
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
get there, right?
Hmm.
You just can't get there from your own wisdom because where
Exactly.
is that knowledge going to come from?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
How, because childhood trauma, right, sits in the unconscious.
Hmm.
So you're going to do things that you may not even have an idea of how maybe your childhood experiences have shaped you.
Hmm.
And so again, it becomes difficult. That's also how or why sometimes people will listen to TikToks or some of these videos and they will not put it into perspective and go and cut everybody off from their life.
Yeah, they've been told that you need to set boundaries. If people are doing A, B, or
Exactly.
C, you need to cut them off, and then boom,
Yeah.
they'll go and cut people off with no context whatsoever their
Yeah.
specific situation. Yeah,
Yeah. Or people will listen. Oh, if your friend doesn't call you in 2 days, they are a terrible friend.
they're a hater. They're a hater
Yeah.
because ever
Yeah.
since you graduated from college, now that you are something, they don't want to call you.
Yeah.
And then yeah, before you know it,
There's so
yeah.
much nuance and complexity in it where, I even see, oh, if your parents didn't smile to you as a child, you have trauma or you have, and it's like, that's not even how we do trauma
Work.
assessment. Oh,
Hmm.
so there are so many things that go in there, but like you said, definitely you can develop coping skills. You can pick up on some of the tips that we share. But if you know that you have experienced some sort of trauma, it would be good to invest in a therapist,
Yeah.
invest in somebody to help you, right? And also, you're looking for a therapist. You make sure that it's a trauma focused, a therapist who have done extensive trauma work um, to work with you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, so the last question for today is about closure, right? Because
Mhm.
as we're talking about healing and
Mhm.
Black women's mental health and stuff like that, there are so many situations where maybe somebody else has inflicted harm on me, my kids, or I think we were on a life together where a father has left your life, and some way somehow I should go look for the father to have a sit down with them for them to explain to me why they left. For that to be that probably is the only way where I heal, right? Is closure necessary for healing to happen? Like, is it as though if closure doesn't happen, healing cannot happen?
Closure is unattainable or not realistic, right?
Okay.
I'm not gonna say it's not. Some people don't get it. Some people get it. But if we look at the number, it's a very
Very, very small number. Yeah.
small number of people that get that closure, right? And when we think about closure, we are thinking about the other person sitting down, you having conversation and all of that.
And them
And
saying exactly what you want to hear. Like it's
exactly,
half the time they makes the situation even worse, right? Because they will
right?
deny everything that you remember.
Yeah, and we traumatize you.
Hmm.
So closure is it's unattainable, and again, it it makes sense, right? It makes sense that if my parents maybe didn't love me as a child, that somewhere, if they apologize or if they sit me down and tell me, oh, this is the it releases you of it, right? That, oh,
Mm.
here they are, they've acknowledged it, right? However, again, that is not realistic. That's a fantasy, right? And sometimes we have the closure, but we are looking at it from somewhere, right? Um, you're in a relationship, maybe the person has stopped calling you. That's your closure. Like, a person who's not gonna call you, why do you want them not to call you and tell you
Explain
what?
to you why they stopped calling. Like somebody goes to you for years or from at least for months. You
Mhm.
you meet them one day somewhere and you're like, can we have dinner so you can explain to me why you stopped calling me? Like that closure. Yeah.
That's your closure right there. They
When
don't
they
care.
stopped. Yeah.
They
Mhm.
stopped, right? You called, you tried to reach out multiple times, they didn't respond. You have your closure right there,
Mhm.
right? Um, again, like the situation, the example that you gave, the parents, that's your closure right there. Now I have to come look for you and ask you questions, and you, like, that's a whole lot of process that you could focus on you,
Yeah.
right? You could focus on you, that how did this thing affect my life? And sometimes in therapy, what comes up is, the grief, right? And sadness. And sometimes the knowledge that this person left me. That's very sad.
But if they
Very,
tell you they left because it was something that is not your fault, something that was out of their control, that probably makes it feel a little bit better.
exactly.
You know.
Right. Or if they pacify you or lie to you, it makes it better versus you have all the data and they've made their decision. And that's difficult. Like, wow, you really didn't care. Like, you had opportunity, you didn't care. Or wow, you're a really terrible person. You could have called and said, oh, maybe this relationship it's not going anywhere for me, but you couldn't even call. Like, when we think, is that somebody that you want even to be your friend in a way, right?
See, that's
And so,
that's my problem. That's the part where sometimes I struggle. When you remember last time when I was talking about where when if we have to bring shame back, we should shame the right people, right? Because if we're in a relationship and there's something about our relationship that you reckon you don't want,
mhm.
and you ghost me, you don't
Yeah,
talk about it, you don't say anything, you just stop talking to me. Some way, somehow, even if you come back and you say, "Well, it was because you had bad breath," right?
okay.
I'm the one that should be ashamed. Like all you had to do was say,
What's
like, have the courage to tell me
Yeah.
I should be the reason why you're walking away. You ghost me for months and months and months. And somehow I'm the one that should come and find you for you to tell me why you left me. No.
Yeah.
Like you are the bad person or the
In the
coward for
situation.
just leaving without talking.
Mhm.
And I feel like sometimes knowing that a coward has left you probably is enough closure. It's not, and it's not so much that you are pompous or you don't think you could have, there could be something bad about you also. But if you just leave without explaining anything to me, and bringing it back to an absentee parent, if you leave your child's life for 20 plus years, whatever reason you left when your child was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Mhm.
10, the child is now 24. And some way, somehow, as a child, that should come and find you for you to explain why you left when they were 4. Okay, what happened when they were 5? Why didn't you come back when they were 14? Why didn't you come back when they were 20? Like, how is this still on the child to come and find you for you to explain so they can heal, right? Well,
Mhm.
could it be helpful? Maybe. But
Mhm.
like you said, as an adult now, there's more merit in focusing that effort in your own work, going to
Mhm.
therapy. The money you use to take car and go and look for somebody, go and pay a therapist and do your own work
And
and
do your work.
heal, and keep it moving.
And
Yes.
the other thing also is, like, when you think about closure, you are also giving more power to the person
Person
who
who
has
hurt
hurt.
you.
Now your healing depend on them, right? And then the other thing is also closure opens the door for them to walk in and out, walk in and out, walk in and out as they want
Mhm.
in your life because you haven't been able to set that boundary and be firm about it because you're looking for closure. So each time they can still come back and cook some story and tell you, and you'll be okay with it. And if it's a relationship, they can do whatever they want to do with you, and they will know, oh, 3 months, I could call her back and say my dog died or my leg.
And it was too hard for me to, yeah. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
So, like, you think about it, right? That you you have the closure. If you don't have the closure, if you feel like I need the closure, go to therapy and figure it out. What exactly are you looking for
Before
in this situation? Because chances are you have all the answers that you
that you
need.
need. Right. And whoever is listening, take it from us. There are so many people that we work with that are looking for closure from people. It almost never happens. The few times when they actually get access to the people to talk to,
They
many
hurt them.
of those times they hurt them more. So the times when people actually talk to the folks that hurt them for it to be meaningful and powerful and actually help their healing, it's so small. It's almost not worth trying, right? It's better to dedicate that effort towards your own healing, So while the ideal case closure conversation could be helpful, it almost never happens. Right.
And
Okay.
somebody who is remorseful for their actions, you are not the person who is going to chase them
Chase
for them.
them to give you closure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For them to come and tell you, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like the situations that I've seen, it's rather they are chasing the person. And sometimes we have to sit down and be like, okay, why are you not responding to them? And the person
Mhm.
is, I don't want to. And it's like, okay, they've been reaching out, writing letters, they will write letters, they will call, they will be like, okay, there have been situations where people have said, I will come to therapy with you
Mhm. Yeah.
because I want us to. So if somebody is remorseful, I don't know how I am supposed to call you for you to apologize to
To
me.
me, right? Yeah.
I'll call you, then I'll be like, hello, I'm calling you for you to apologize.
Mhm.
For
Like
what?
they'll say, I'm calling you because I'm wondering why you just left, right? It's like, did you
Mhm.
not love me? Did why did you leave? Because ultimately it would be, again, bringing it back to the life that we were on. Like, what could a father who left 20 plus years ago say to make sense to me right now? Like, okay, your mom was evil. Okay, when I was 4.
But you left me with the evil woman.
Not even, there's that, but also, yes, when I turned 18, you live 2 towns away. You know my birth date. I've been 18 for 10 years. So I've been an adult where you don't need my mom's permission to reach out to me. Why
Exactly.
did you not reach out to me? It's today that you've seen that I'm a popular musician. Now you want to reach out to me to show me the reason why you left. Meanwhile, you have other kids, like I have siblings. You haven't reached out to any of them to tell them why you left. Oh, it's the popular one that you want to explain why you left to. Asa, get out of here. Anyway, so the I think last episode we had this small section where if there's anything that's been trending you want to have a thought on, you can say at this point, and I have one, the Tyler Perry thing, right?
Okay.
The
Mhm.
Tyler Perry conversation and all of the people who are saying
Did
yes,
you watch the movie?
no. Oh, I don't remember the last time I watched a Tyler Perry movie, right? Because
Okay.
this is mhm.
Apparently, I think they say it's good.
Yeah.
I haven't
The
seen it. I haven't seen
Larisha was telling me yesterday that the people who have watched it say they cried all the way through because it's about the struggles of a single mother who was pushed to the point where they had to do something like almost like the last straw that broke the camel's back. They were one struggle after another at a point they're like, you know what?
So was she actually struggling or she was imagining struggling?
No, okay, so we haven't seen it, right? But the information I
Okay.
have is it was a black woman, single mother, who was one struggle, like she was actually struggling. Life was beating her down to a point where she had to do something drastic. She's holding a gun
Okay.
on the picture, so I'm guessing she had
Okay.
to,
There
put a
are
gun
so
on
many
something.
different pictures where I'm like, why didn't you all choose a better picture
So for
when
this.
she's wedded?
hmm
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so this is my thought for the people who say we are actually struggling. So why can't a movie be about our struggle, right? So this is one of the reasons I don't watch scary movies. It's one of the reasons I don't watch real life stories. I don't watch movies that are based on true stories because
Mm-hmm.
when I sit in front of a TV, I don't want to live the life that I live every day. Real life is hard enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want something I can aspire to. So yes, I know we struggle as a Black community. I know life is difficult in our day-to-day life. I don't need consistent movies to do that, right? Sometimes if we're watching a movie or watching a show and we see it starts with a police shooting of a Black and an armed Black man. Sometimes we're
Yeah.
like, yep, we're done. We're not watching it because that's our real life. I don't need a movie about it.
Yeah.
Right. If there's a movie about it, I'm not the one that's supposed to watch it. Maybe it's made for some people to know about the lives of, the struggles of a Black man. I don't
But
need
then
to
can
watch that
one
one.
person be telling the same story?
At some points, like, dude, why? So this is where it's the our point of convergence, which in a way is really what you're talking about. The point where I agree with you a lot is at some point you have to give us a smile. Like, why is every movie we watch with you a movie that's making us cry? It's our life. We don't need reminders of that in fiction. Like, we don't need reminders of that when we come to watch TV. At least not that many times. So I want to see a movie from him where we're doing well, where the Black people in the movie, are actually having good lives. And I think I don't remember, but there are a few TV shows where even when the Black woman in it is successful in the profession, their personal life is a mess. And they are,
Blackish, right? I think
yeah,
people talk about Blackish a lot,
the TV
right?
show Blackish, well, Kenya Barris,
Yeah.
Blackish is also problematic in so many ways.
Yeah.
But
That
like,
husband was so incompetent. It was like,
eh,
how can you
Dre,
survive?
right? And apparently it's based on the life of the writer. So
Okay. Oh,
Kenya
sorry.
Barris, he based it on his own life, you
Oh,
know.
sorry.
But I watched Blackish, which funny enough, at the time when I was watching it, I thought it was funny. These days, when I look back at the clips, I'm like, Trey, what were you doing? But yeah, so I think when you're consistently writing stories that make us sad, it normalizes the sadness we're in, right? So give us something to aspire to and actually tell us stories about the people who are also doing well and flowing this life in spite of these difficulties, right?
Yeah.
Show us some of their stories so we can
Mhm.
aspire to that, so we can actually take a breather. So,
Mhm.
yes, there are Black people who are struggling and their stories, I guess, need to be told. Like, we see them every day, right?
Mhm.
When we come and watch TV, I want to see something aspirational. I want to see something that makes me smile. I want to see something that makes me drop my shoulders and breathe, even if it's all for that 1 hour and 30 minutes. So yeah, that's my thoughts on all of this Tyler Perry stuff. And for all of the people that came after you for that you need to stick to things in Africa, that's non-starter. I think it's nonsense conversation. Yeah.
Yes. One ignorant person said, where are African
But Show,
writers
show,
or
show me
African
show me your
things?
African Tyler Perry. I'll wait. I saw that comment.
Your education system really failed you.
Yeah. All right. So, any final thoughts before we round up this episode? Thank you very much for your openness and, you know,
Mhm.
everything that you've shared in episode 8 of the AFROmind podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you. This was great. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe.
Mhm. Yes. And
We have
and
2 more episodes to go, then
mm,
we will see if we'll come
with-
back.
yes, so we are blackmailing you people again. If you want us to come back for season 2 and if you want us to come back quickly, we need you to crank the views up on the episode we've already recorded. Because if not, well, then what's the point? If you won't watch it anyway, then why should we even bother? Anyway, so thank you everyone who has watched it up onto this point, and we will see you on the next episode.
Yes.
Peace.